United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John, you didn't get the memo about the sweater vest tonight?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of the Board of Commissioners for May 2nd, 2013. We're here on a Thursday evening for a special meeting, and the topic of this evening is our nonprofits and community organizations which we fund. And we're going to go through a list of 6 of our nonprofits that we give funding to, and hear a little presentation and an update and check in with all of them. And the first one we have on the list is the Wayne Senior Center. So I'd like to invite you to come on up and introduce yourself and who you have with you, and tell us a little bit of how you're doing.
Well, I guess they're going to stay in the audience. I'm Susan Shapiro. I'm the Executive Director of the Wayne Senior Center for about 20 years now. And with me I have the President of our board, Sue Parker, and our VP, Bruce Wilson. Well, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about my favorite subject, which is the Wayne Senior Center. We're pretty passionate over there. It is the place for community and friendship and access to resources which are key ingredients to positive aging. All of our members, including the 102 new members that we have since the last time I spoke to you, are able to get this kind of an experience when they come to the center. We believe that positive and active aging is the key to keeping people in their homes and keeping them independent. We recognize, I think that's key as well, them as valuable members of our society who contribute a diversity of skills, knowledge, and experience to their families and the communities. We see that every day. We truly embrace the differences of each older adult who walks through our doors. They all have talents and experience and a breadth of knowledge that they each bring that broadens all of us and broadens the community. Our offerings in terms of classes are Tai Chi and yoga and functional fitness and line dancing. We have a personal trainer who creates an exercise regime for each person who decides to join our fitness center. She's amazing and a natural motivator, which helps for everybody, whether you're an older adult or not. I think motivation is key. The benefits of these kinds of programs are immense. I mean, lowering blood pressure, giving people more stamina, increasing their flexibility, increasing their strength. Maybe just making them able to get up and down the stairs or to carry their groceries in by themselves. Those can be huge if you're in somewhat of a frail situation. We provide warm water workouts in 2 locations, at La Maison and at Dunwoody, and we do that 3 times a week. It's an Arthritis Foundation program where it's done in warm water, and for lots of people that is the only form of exercise that they can really do, and they find it very helpful. We serve lunch every day. Those lunches are 1/3 RDA compliant, which means at least we know that for one meal, those people are being socialized, they're getting the nutrition that they need, and that's important to a lot of them because they're eating alone and perhaps not eating the best when they are alone. To help that problem, we've added, it's been over a year now, we've added the take-home dinner program. They can take them, they've been prepared, flash frozen, and they can put them in the microwave. And another program that has gotten a lot of attention at the center is what we call Breakfast for Your Brain. We all know that we have to continue to exercise everything, but we also have to continue to exercise our brain. And what are people most afraid of as they grow older? Falling and losing cognitive ability. So we got the exercises to help with the falling, and the Breakfast for Your Brain, which gives them stimulation of their brain and of their thought process. We collaborate with Mainline Health for our Ask a Nurse program. We've been doing that for as long as I've been there. Nurses at the center at least once a week to check blood pressures and help people monitor other health concerns. They'll even call the person's doctor if they find the need to do that. The center has been involved with the community at large for a long time, between Black History Month and the parade and our senior luncheons, mentoring the 2 schools in Radnor, and getting involved with local churches, and is part of the way that we do that. The other thing that I think is important to mention is that we work with our participants on entitlements, which can be huge. People don't understand them. They hear that Medicare is going to change again. They hear this, they hear that. They absolutely panic. So Betsy, who's my assistant, works with those people on a one-to-one basis to help them, and it makes a huge difference. People are so relieved to have that help. As it turns out, today's May 2nd. May is Older Americans Month. The theme this year by the what is it? AOA, Office of Aging. What's the A for? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, Anyway, it'll come to me. Anyway, the theme this year is Unleash the Power of Aging. And so we've asked some people to share how they unleash the power of aging, which can be, and very often is looked at as a negative thing. And they've written things like learning something new every day, sing out loud, growing old is bonus years, never regret growing old, it's a privilege listen to me, denied to many. Yesterday, I attended the centenarian luncheon that the Office on Aging gives in Delaware County. Now, I've been waiting a long time to take people to that event, but I never had anybody who was a centenarian. This year we have 2. One of them happens to be related to that man right there, Mr. Spingler, his mother-in-law. Gracie is going to turn 100 in December. It was for anybody that would turn 100 or older in the year 2013. And the other was a lady named Jenny O'Lampy. That's kind of telling. There were 250 people there. There were 49 centenarians, one lady 109, one lady 105. When they started this program, or this event, they only had about 40 people altogether. That was about 11 years ago. They now have 149. Now, not all of them could attend, but I think that's telling. People are living longer. People are going to require services for longer. That number tripled. We really have to, I think, as a community, think about that. The trend is definitely going to continue. And the thing is that I think we've proven over the last years that we have the compassion and the passion to provide these services for our community. And that's all I have, but I'm ready for questions. I know, you all know me pretty well. Anything?
Is your funding request going to be similar to last year's?
My funding request would be similar to last year's. Thank you.
No, I think we're...
Did I cover everything?
Mhm.
I did?
I think that's it. We really appreciate you coming in. We appreciate you giving us the update. It seems as though you've covered everything.
Well,
Okay.
I want to find, do you have any new programs that you're planning?
The new programs that we're planning are, yes, we are planning to do some, well, I have a theory about this, but planning to help bring in some more baby boomers, perhaps a biking club, a hiking club, that kind of thing. What's interesting, and this is just my theory, is that there are not a lot of people in the baby boomer years who need or want the services of a senior center. What I see happening, and what I think will continue to happen, is that people, maybe 70s, definitely 80s, just get to that point in their lives where they need the services and the programs that we have. But they've been doing fine up until then. And so what I think is we're going to have an influx, not so much of baby boomers in the next 10 years, but all the people who are living longer and in their 70s and 80s. And I think the baby boomers will also want these services, but not yet. but the ivory tower doesn't agree with me. But I'm kind of just watching this, so I have a feeling I might be right.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all the service you give to our community. Thank you.
We appreciate your support.
All right. Next on our list, we will hear from Surrey Services in the related industry. How are you?
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you. And we did send over a PowerPoint. We were told to do a PowerPoint. So I don't know if you want to see that or you want me to just talk. It's up to you. I do have a little drive.
If you put together a PowerPoint, we'd love to see it.
Is that Bob doing it, or you want me to see if it's out here?
If you sent it over, it's probably loaded already.
Just get. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much. Well, thank you. Since the last time I came before you, I do want to introduce who's with me, Dory Liggett, who runs the Surrey Chorus. The Surrey Chorus does go out into the community about 8 times a year. It's about 45 people, and they go to various places in and around the community as ambassadors of the organization in positive, healthy aging. And Mary Saleo, both of those ladies are Radnor residents, and Mary is pretty much at Surrey most every day, I would say. Yes. We were given 4 questions, so I'm hoping I answer those well. And in the last year since we've spoken, I've had the opportunity to meet some of you and work with you more directly. So thank you for that. That's been great. Most of what Surrey does in Radnor Township is in the community and in the homes. So we do transportation, in-home services like daily money management. We work with people in and around their homes to keep them clean and safe. The yards picked up. Working with a number of hoarders. I have a list of some examples and stories, such as Louise, who's a 72-year-old woman with multiple health issues. And we have a team of volunteers in her home helping her deal with some accumulation of items that she no longer needs. And we're working with Cabrini as a partnership on that one. We're working with a couple other groups to get her home a little bit safer for her. And that's a long-term project, as all hoarders are. I think we're working with about 4 hoarders in Radnor Township right now. It's not quick and it's not fast, as we know. This is some photographs, some different groups that are working in and around your community, cleaning up yards. Transportation is a big one, and I have some statistics on that in a few sheets. Your first question to us in the email that we got is the organization stable? And Surrey is. This is the kind of pictorial of how we look at our sustainability, which is using the 4 pillars of assistance from government, private funding, volunteers who are a huge part. We have over 900 volunteers last year, which is up from the 700 and some odd that I told you a year ago. So that keeps growing, and that's a huge way that the community supports Surrey. And then we have service income, and all 4 of those play a part into our sustainability and our stability. Just a few numbers in Radnor Township. We provided over 7,000 rides to your residents in the calendar year 2012. You saw some of the pictures of service hours, so there were 3,385 of those. CHORE is a particular program around low-income people, and a lot of that deals with some of the hoarders, and we dealt with 351 instances in Radnor Township in that program. We delivered meals, 13,871, and that was to 35 residents of Radnor. So every day we deliver a hot meal to their home. That's 7 days a week. So that's part of the CHORE program also, so that they are getting those meals and a visitor, which is equally as important, that they have somebody making sure they're okay, and the person has to answer the door to get the meal. And so we are going into 35 homes. Those people otherwise cannot come out, don't come out of their homes. So it's a really important program that we do. We did 302 personal care visits. So that's helping people with more intensive personal physical care, not meals. And then volunteers in Radnor gave over 20,000 hours of volunteer work, which is pretty impressive from your community. Very great.
Do you like have a time system? How do you track that?
We have what's called My Senior Center, and every single person, whether they're a participant, a volunteer, whatever, they're in the system, and they'll log on a piece of paper. Right now it's kind of manual, and then we enter it into the system. So we can go down to the person's name and see everything they do within our system. And then for tonight, we just took that and said, give us everything about Radnor when we look at the township. Somebody asked about new programs. One of our more exciting new programs this year has been geriatric care management, and that's very much a one-on-one, short hours, but very, very intensive to help families predominantly through the process and the complexity of the aging services and what to do if mom and dad maybe need some help. Who do you go to find out what's available and what's out there for them and how do they access that? And that's a geriatric care manager. That's been a new program. I mentioned when I was here last year that we were hoping to do that. We actually hired that person in November. We're really excited about what she's done. She's made tremendous difference for people and their families already. We have gotten our home health license, so that's medical service. So when we go into homes, it's not just the personal non-medical. We also are offering medical care so that when they're coming home from rehab and maybe they have an IV or they have a wound that they need wound care being taken care of, we can now do all of that for them. And we've added music therapy and a dietitian. Again, this is to bridge what's happening in centers like the Wayne Senior Center, and when they go home, what additional services and support do they need in their home. We do partner with a number of other organizations. Wayne, I think we talked to you about that last year, and we both use each other's fitness centers, and we go on trips together and do a lot of things like that. Mainline School Night, we partner with them quite a bit and have probably about 12 classes a week at our building. And we have worked with the township on some of the residents who maybe need some extra personal and private one-on-one care in their home. And we work with Mainline Health as well to service around health care issues and needs. These are the outcomes and the difference we've made in some of the residents' lives. So just to give you an example, that's 97% of the respondents said that they were able to maintain their independence because of the services that they've received. And what's really important also is just access to information and services. I think that's really where the rubber meets the road, is what difference have you made in their life. Where are we going? You're kind of asking us about how are we doing so far, where are we going, and we do see this wave coming. As Susan said, probably many boomers today are not going to come in. Where we are finding they're coming to Surrey is to volunteer, and I think I've showed you those incredible volunteer hours. So that's really where the boomers are coming into the aging services. We have added yoga classes during the evening, so they are participating in those kinds of things, but really just the volunteer areas where boomers are coming in. But in 10 years from now, they're going to have some different needs, and where we're really focusing is on the chronic disease management and self-management and how to help them stay as healthy as we can so that they can stay living in Radnor or wherever they want to live, and doing a lot more education in the future, a lot more around healthcare management. We're all about engaging them, enabling them, and empowering them, and that's what Surrey's about, and that is my presentation. I think I answered your questions, but do you have any for tonight? And yes, we would love the same funding. Thank you. We appreciate that very much.
Any big projects on the horizon that you'd like us to know about? Or?
We are looking at expanding our facility site. We are fairly blowing out of our current building. That is not in Radnor Township, which is why I didn't really talk about it. Parking is an issue for us, and just the demand that we've had for these self-management programs and training and community space. So we are looking at hopefully expanding our facility.
On site or looking at a new?
We would look at something new. We are landlocked, and we have very few parking spaces, and we tried to buy the building next door, but he didn't want to sell it, so we tried that one.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any question? Okay, we really appreciate you coming in and everything you do for our community.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all your support. It's wonderful working with Radnor.
Okay, the next group that we will hear from tonight is the Radnor Memorial Library.
Good evening.
Hi, Kathy.
Okay, let's get her out of here. Oh, great. All right. All righty. What do you want me to do? Hit escape. All right. Somebody else's laptop. Sorry. That's okay. Is that yours right there? Yeah, it should be. Great. Thank you. And we thank you very much for this opportunity. And first thing I want to do is, because of this, you pushed my schedule up and I got my annual report done earlier. So I'm going to let you all have it because it's going to talk a lot about what happened in 2012. And in it, Mr. Higgins, you will find your answer to your question you asked me last July, which I couldn't remember. How many gifts did we get and from how many people, and what was the average gift? And I will say that in 2012, we received more gifts from the community in the annual fund, but the value of those gifts went down. So I think that's an impact of the community, of the economy, that the average gift went down, but the number of gifts actually went up.
You can just hand those to me and I'll hand them out. Okay.
Okay.
We're short.
We were asked to actually respond to some specific questions, and one of the questions you ask is what changes have occurred in the library. And basically I'm focusing on those things that have changed since I last came in front of you in July of 2012. The biggest change for us, and we thank you very, very much, was a 2.5% increase in funding from the township. It has been very, very welcome. And I assure you it has been used to cover our increase in costs. Like any other organization, we are hit with the same inflationary pressures that any other organization is, and so that has helped us to meet that. You will also see in our budget for this year, we increasingly drew upon our endowment to cover costs. So we are trying to help match and cost share with the township on this.
Do you just want to be clear on so you're drawing down on the endowment, or are you just using more of the income
we are
generation?
doing the state changed its rules on what a trust can do, and previously you could only expend income. And that's not the growth in the trust, but the actual dividends. They changed it to being able to take a percentage of the value of the trust. So we are doing that, and therefore that is in some ways drawing down on the trust, depending on the growth in the year. I mean, that's why we went to this. One of the other things that we did, we installed additional LED lights in the library. We replaced some extremely inefficient old fluorescent lights that were going away, and we were able to do that with a gift from the Friends of the Library. So that has helped, obviously, with some of our energy costs as well. And we have begun the process to undertake a feasibility study for the improvements, additions, or renovations to the library building. We have the process that we have used in that is that we proposed a collaborative project with the township to study exactly what can be done with the existing building in the existing plot of land that we are on. We are doing this collaboratively again. We sent out 16 RFPs to engineering and architectural firms in the Philadelphia area that have extensive library experience. We are asked them specifically in this feasibility study to look at, should we renovate? How could we do so? can we put any kind of an addition on that building? And what's it going to cost? And what implications would that have for any HVAC work that the township would be undertaking? We didn't want to go forward with something that would have, do the HVAC piece and then have to change it if we were going to do something. So we're trying to get that information ahead of time so that can blend into whatever happens with the HVAC repair or replacement. We had 10 of these firms toured the library. It was an interesting 2 weeks. And 11 have submitted proposals. We were stunned that 11 people sat down and sent us packets of stuff like this big. A subcommittee of the board, and also with Steve Norsini, have reviewed those proposals, and right now they're voting for their top 4. At which point, if we have consensus, which we're hoping, then we will bring those firms in to do presentations about what they would do and how they would approach a feasibility study. And we hope to complete this process by the 1st of June. This is really, really being fast-tracked because we want to be able to respond quickly to the issue of what do we do and the HVAC connection. One of the things that I wanted to share was a quote from one of those proposals, which I thought was kind of interesting from somebody else's view. The well-maintained and actively utilized library I saw does not immediately reveal the laundry list of repairs, reconfiguration, and aesthetic improvements that, when effected, will enable you to better serve your constituents. While some of the concerns are library issues, seating above all, organization, operational flow, etc., most are building issues, drainage in the bathrooms, accessibility, code issues, and especially feasibility of expansion options. So it was kind of nice to see that we weren't crazy, that maybe, having another fresh set of eyes look at this would make sense. The other thing that has not changed since we last saw you was the situation with state funding for libraries. Since 2008, which was the last time that the state fully funded its formula for state aid to public libraries, we have lost in excess of $70,000 a year in state funding, which means cumulatively our loss has been over $350,000. That we have tried to make up with fundraising, we've cut our costs, etc., but that is not going to change. The budget that Governor Corbett has announced for next year has us at flat funding again. So we are not going to see any relief as far as budget pressure from the state, at least in Governor Corbett's budget. You asked us about challenges. As you are well know, that the library and the township, actually the township is the lead applicant, along with the library's cooperation, applied for a Keystone grant to replace and upgrade the HVAC system, which is was put in 1980 in the library. We did not get that grant. Because we are going ahead with this feasibility study, even though it's on fast track, that whole project is on hold because we obviously don't want to do the wrong thing and then have an impact on what we might be able to do. We had a cold winter this year. We had been seeing decreases in our electric bill because of the LED lights. This year, the December to March electric bills were up 7% because of December was 1 degree colder than in 2011. January was 2 degrees colder, and I think we all remember February was 4 degrees colder, and that impacted our budget by 7% for electricity. So that is a challenge for us. We have had issues with the parking lot lights in the library parking lot. Steve and his staff has been working very hard on that. It looks like there's a solution in hand, but right now we have no parking lot lights in the library parking lot. Thank goodness for daylight savings times. But again, it is an issue that's out there, and it is a challenge. We actually have a sign at the circulation desk now because people come in and helpfully say, your lights aren't on. And we have a little sign that says, yes, we know the lights aren't working. Yes, we're working on it. But it could be another month or so before that's resolved. The South Wayne parking lot usage, unintended consequences are wonderful. That lot is now very full during the day. With the change to the being able to buy the package and get a discount if you get cards and all that other stuff, that lot is now heavily used. There are days when there are no parking spaces in that lot. That impacts us because then there's no place for overflow parking from the library lot. So it's a great thing, but it had, I think, from our perspective, a very unintended consequence that we now have people saying they couldn't find a place to park in the library lot or the South Wayne lot because people are doing the long-term parking that they didn't do previously. And like the predecessors up here have talked about, we're looking at shifting usage patterns. We too are looking at this enormous number of people who are hitting retirement age. As they have said, they are very different people than some earlier generations. They tend to be more energetic. They also tend to be lifelong learners and people who are looking for challenges and to get together and talk about things and to have access to information. And so we are trying to plan for that future rollout as that generation comes to us more and more for programming, for resources, and for instruction on how to use some of those resources. Every time a new electronic device gets rolled out, we see them because people will come in with their iPad or their iPhone or their new Kindle or their whatever and say, how do I use this thing? They've changed it. They've changed the interface. And we're the place that people go to because you can't call anybody and maybe no one in your household knows how to do it. So we sit there and we try to help people figure out how to use things on their own devices. That's a legitimate service and it's a growing demand. And as more and more people get various devices and as we offer more and more resources electronically, it's a role that we fulfill just as we, I guess, used to teach people how to keyboard. We used to have classes on keyboarding. Well, nobody keyboards anymore. They just push buttons and move pictures and stuff. So that's an example of what we're starting to see in changes of usage. We're also seeing a lot more people browsing. There's nowhere to browse anymore. There aren't bookstores. Online, if you know what you're looking for, you can find it. But if you really don't know what's new, you're looking for something different, we're the place to come now. So that's a change in usage that may not result in the same circulation data, but it brings people in the door. Some new services that we have done, and the top two are from, because they were provided by the county library system, and as a member of that, we receive this at no cost. The Zinio service is, I think there are 300 and some odd magazines at this point, that if you want to receive them on your whatever or on your computer, you can sign up, you get a subscription, you get an email saying the new issue is out, you click on it and it downloads to wherever you are. So if you want The Economist, which costs you $250, if you purchase a personal subscription, you can get it free from this service delivered to your iPhone, iPad, Android, whatever device you happen to prefer, or to a PC. Like I said, there's very popular for crafters because it brings them about 40 or 50 new crafting magazine, Backpacker, things of that nature. Newsweek, Time, all the news magazines, they're available as well. So, and it's all electronic. And it's actually looks like the magazine. It's not just the text. It's an actual, almost like a PDF of the actual magazine with all the ads, all the pictures, and everything. It's a really cool service. This new one just started, and we're going to see if this works. It didn't work. Okay. Okay, well, it was supposed to. Tumble Books is a children's picture book service, and it's online.
Welcome to
there it
the
is. They're
Tumble
talking,
Book
but I can't get the
Library
picture.
virtual
How do I
tour.
go back on this?
Tumble Book Library is an online library of
showing.
animated, talking picture books. Tumble Books are presented in an innovative and exciting format, which help kids to learn to read, build vocabulary, and have fun at the same time. Are you ready to check it out? Let's sign in and get started.
Anyway, that is the, let me get through here now to my next, there we go, back to this slide. Come on. That is also something we got from the county. It is for small children. It is, again, something that you sign up for. There are, I think, 200 children's picture books. It serves reading. They are high-quality children's books. I don't know if any of you remember the Weston Woods Company, which used to do educational videos. They are involved in this, so they are very, very high quality. And again, this can be used from any mobile device or from a computer with a child. And it helps them to read, and it talks to them, and has that cute little guy. The Truck Zoo is something that we're doing new. This is a collaborative effort with the Recreation Department from the Township. We are having a family extravaganza in the South Wayne parking lot on May 12th, where there will be trucks and a Jeep and a helicopter and a limousine and all kinds of things that kids can blow the horn, they can touch, they can look at, they can talk about. There'll be stories, there'll be crafts, there'll be all kinds of things, and it's all an idea that this is something a family can come to, the kids can interact physically, have that experience of seeing a dump truck and a front loader and all those other kinds of cool stuff, and the helicopter, of course, and the fire trucks, up close and personal rather than just going by on the street. So we think that's a little different. That's, again, the experiential side of children's learning. And we're hoping lots and lots of families in the township take advantage of it. And we would like to very much thank Tammy Cohen and her staff, Katie Diamond and Tiffany Hilleman, who've worked very, very hard with our children's department staff, because without their energy and their contacts and all that, this would have been impossible to put together. So we're really looking forward to it and see how it goes. Organizational changes. First of all, you asked, are we stable? That was a question. How is your stability? We are. Financially, we're at budget where we expect to be. We expect to finish the year with no higher of a deficit than we started the year with, because we do have some excess cash that we can use to cover deficits on an annual basis. And we are a dynamic and changing organization. As you can see, we had 4 new members join our board last June, and in May of this year, we will be adding 3 new members to our board. One of the township appointments is still vacant, and we hope that you will fill that, because we'd like to start the year with a full crew on the board, which is always useful. And of course, last year, on June 30th, Dorothy Carlson, longtime children's librarian at the library, retired, and we have a whole new children's staff. And so that has been a transition, as you can imagine. They have different ideas, they approach things differently, and so it's been an adjustment for all of us. The library continues to do what it always has done. It serves people. It provides a place for them to come, and we go out to them in some settings for learning, for entertainment, for community. We see people working by themselves. We see people working in small groups. We see people meeting their friends. We see people talking at the shelves about what are you reading and what do you think. And that's something that the library has always done and will continue to do. Unfortunately, with much of the research has said, gee, you don't get to stop doing what you're doing well already. We just need to keep adding more services and provide more access to both information and entertainment than we have in the past. Our numbers are stable or up in some areas. And so we see this is what we do. And we thank you very much for this opportunity. Whoops, wrong way. We thank you for this opportunity, and I do that on the behalf of the board, the staff, and the users of the library.
Let me just ask one quick follow-up question. So the feasibility studies are due, you plan to pick the firm that you're going to use in June. Right. And then what do you anticipate the turnaround time being for them to do the study? It
varies. The top 4 that right now in the balloting, I feel like American Idol. Call in your number, America. But the top 4 right now are anywhere between right around 3 months,
3 months.
is what they're
June, July,
looking at.
August. So this summer, you'll be operating on your, no matter what happens, you'll be operating on the current air conditioning
Right.
system.
Yes, which has had some repairs done this spring, which it had to have just to keep us going. But I think with Steve and I have talked about this, it doesn't really make sense to
Right.
make, until we know if it's even feasible to do anything, so that whatever's done would then work with what we might be moving towards. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay.
And one other thing, if I can say, the Friends of the Library, an important supporter of the library, financially as well as spiritually, will be having its paperback book sale this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. So as you prepare to go to the beach, come in and load up on paperbacks, because they've got they'll probably have 15,000 paperbacks available for sale.
Kathy, I have just a quick question. I don't want to get into budgeting tonight. That's
No,
a different meeting.
I understand.
But I just want to better understand. I'm looking at one of your financial graphs.
From the annual report, yes.
Yeah, if we look at 2012, it looks like, and this is just, again, a broad discussion, about 1.2 million in
Right.
expenditures, but then if I look at the revenues, we're only maybe 900,000 tops between the township funding and the state. Yet, when I look at the donations, you're somewhere around 45,000
Right.
donations. Where's the rest of that gap coming from?
We earn money, the fines and fees, the dollar DVD, that brings in a chunk of money.
So
We
fees.
also get significant gifts from the Friends, and also we get a nice gift every year from the Chanticleer Foundation that funds some programming and part of the collection. So yes, the grants and other funding, and of course this year we were able to apply the funds we earned at our Drawson to our budget. So again, that was a fundraising effort, and we're planning to do. I know I was about to talk in the future. We're working on announcing a very exciting fundraising activity in the fall that will involve doing stuff you've never thought about doing in a library.
So just, that's very helpful. I
Yes.
just realized the fees weren't
Right.
listed as revenue.
Right.
So you had also mentioned that, that at least in this past year, you've had to dip into the principal of your investments to
Mm-hmm.
help cover costs. Is there a long-term plan to not do that and to try to get back to?
We've never really done that in the past, but the loss of state funding,
Right.
has really hammered us. Right.
So it doesn't, I mean, obviously, your board and you, probably yourself, you recognize that that's not a sustainable
No.
method. So is there an effort underway to try to align the operational costs to the actual revenues that you have?
Right. We have always used the income portion of that. What we've done is, and it's a very small amount of principal, and it is coming from one of the discretionary funds that are in there that are not donor or designated as non-touchable. It's restricted. That's the word, not non. But it is a concern. But that's one of the reasons the state put in. There's a maximum you can take, no more than 7% a year, because they feel that under, and our investment advisor recommends staying under 5. It's kind of like a retirement fund. How much principal can you take out? But it becomes before you start eating into your both income, and so it kind of follows those same rules.
And the economy's done much better in the last
Yes.
even 24 months than it had the
Yes.
prior before that.
Right.
So you're seeing the benefit of the increases in growth and.
We have seen, yes. I mean, we were really nervous 4 years ago.
I
and the
remember,
endowment just
yeah.
went.
Yeah.
We also have a second endowment income that we do not budget, and this sounds a little crazy. We are part of an endowment that's in Maine that like 95% of that endowment's, whatever, if it's income or distribution or whatever, goes to another public library, and we get less than 5% from that. But we don't know anything about it. We don't know how it's invested. It's a very private trust. So annually, we don't budget for that because we have had some years we got nothing. Other years we get something. So since we don't know, we don't budget on it. But sometimes that will be why everything you see on an endowment line may not just come from our endowment. It's the surprise check that shows up. Just the same way if we get an unusual gift, it's hard to budget that. You can look at trend, but you can't be sure that that's going to show up every year.
All right, so ideally, like those unexpected revenues or sources of revenue would be treated for capital plans and larger plans.
Or they go into operating. The one that comes from the trust in Maine goes to operating because that's what it's designated for.
Right.
But we can't budget for it. So that helps my deficit at the end of the year.
Right. All
when
right,
it
thank
shows
you.
up.
I just wanted to get
Does
a
that
better
help?
understanding.
And I just want to call out two numbers that are in this annual report. First is the number of borrowers that are registered from last year, 2012. 15,056 people are borrowers, have cards.
Active library cards, yes.
Active cards. That's half of our population
That's right.
in Radnor. So literally every other person in Radnor has a library card. The second number, which I think is really telling, is the number of patron visits to the library, which is 208,534, which I think by far and away makes it the busiest township-owned property that we have. So it looks like you are still hopping with business.
Well, as the gentleman
Despite the
said,
internet.
an actively used
Right.
library, absolutely.
Well, listen, thank you so much for coming in tonight.
I'm
That's
sorry, yes.
okay. At the back of your report, you list a whole bunch of staff, and it says
Yes.
part-time. Are these paid part-time?
Yes, those are all
So-
paid part-time.
so-
They work between 3.5 and 7 hours a
So
week.
what percent of the staffed hours in the library are covered by paid people versus volunteers?
Our volunteers in the library is about 600 to 800 hours a year because most of the volunteer work goes to the Friends, and they have thousands of hours of volunteers who create those book sales, sort those materials, receive all of that, and then we get the financial benefit of that.
But in terms of when I walk in there, the vast majority of the hours
Yes.
are people who are getting paid.
Right, and they're, like I said, they work between 3.5 and about 12 hours a week. Right. And
Any
some
oth-
of them are pages who work 2.5 hours a week on that list.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming and for everything you do for our community. All right, moving along, the next group we are going to hear from tonight is the Wayne Arts Center. Come on up.
Pardon me? Did I move it? Okay. Did everyone get a hard copy? Great, great. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, to see you again. And we're going to try to do a Mutt and Jeff kind of a presentation, and so we hope that it's going to work. If you look at the agenda, I got it right there. That's what we're going to be covering, and Nancy is going to cover primarily the cultural end of the organization, and I'll try to handle more of the financial kinds of issues. So, Nancy?
Thank you. As many of you may know, Wayne Arts Center was founded in 1930 and has been serving the community for over 80 years. One of the reasons it was founded, as one of our founders have commented, is there was nothing like it outside of town. And it was founded in a garage, and it moved many times until our property was purchased in 1955 on Maplewood Avenue. Is that sounding very fuzzy, or is it just my back off? Right, like this? Is that okay? Even more? Okay. Okay. So anyway, in 1955, the ground was purchased, and a very modest facility was constructed. And it remained like that until about 1995, when we experienced our first expansion. And we expanded the Art Center from 2,600 to 9,000 square feet. That was a pretty ambitious project, and many people were a little worried that we wouldn't be able to accomplish that. However, we did with a lot of hard work and fundraising, and we found ourselves, after 4 years of being in that space, out of room. So fortunately, we were able to purchase the Masonic Hall, which was adjacent to our property, and we tripled the size of that facility from 9,000 to 28,000 square feet. And we are now, believe it or not, experiencing space shortages once again. And we opened that facility in 2007. We have new art studios, we have a beautiful culinary space, we have an additional exhibition gallery, new lobby area, beautiful grounds that we have been working hard to develop. And we're really proud of what we've accomplished. We've worked really hard. The board has done a phenomenal job, and we would like to thank Radnor Township for all of their support through all of these various expansions. And at any rate, we now are serving over 20,000 visitors coming through the Arts Center every year, and I'm most definitely sure that it's more than that. And we have 600 classes that we're serving 6,000 enrollments throughout the year.
If you take a look at the next slide, it's where we are. And essentially where we are is we're in a very healthy position. We have a positive cash flow after depreciation, and it's taken us a while to get there, but the board is very happy that we're there. As far as our cost is concerned, we cover 80% of our cost based on tuition and programs and exhibitions and so forth. And then the other 20%, we rely on outside funding, government, private funding. And I think you'll find that an 80-20 split is almost unheard of in the nonprofit area. So we're very proud of that, but that helps us. We do now have, as you can see, 115 instructors and 11 employees for Nancy. And we continue to work, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, on where we go from here. We're convinced that you can't stand still. You know, you're either going to go forward or you're going to go backwards. And you'll hear a little bit later on of how we're trying to stay where we are, which we think is on the cutting edge of some of these art issues.
And I'm going to go backtrack a little bit, let you understand our mission, which is to serve our community through art education. We offer many courses in the fine arts, in drawing, painting, ceramics, sculpture, jewelry, mixed media, and we've expanded into the performing arts. We have drama classes, we have music instruction, we serve over 200 music students in violin, viola, guitar, piano, flute, and bass, and we've just added voice recently. We also offer over 20 exhibitions a year, and when I tell people that, they are a little bit perplexed by how we could do that, but we have our 2 gallery spaces, but we also have lobby galleries, culinary gallery, and many other spaces throughout the Art Center that we are hosting exhibitions. We also have a comprehensive outreach program, and we've been developing that. We have started a couple of years ago a brain injury program, and we are getting ready to start an early Alzheimer's program through the arts. In terms of our staff, it's, I think, worth mentioning that when I started, I was the first full-time director in 1987, and I had 1 assistant, and we now have 11 staff members. 4 or 5 of them are full-time, and the others are part-time. And we also have over 100 volunteers that assist us with various projects. We just thought we would mention, do you want to hit the next button? We have been the recipient of several awards. We were awarded the Best Art Center, Art Gallery, Best Art Instruction by Mainline Media News. We've been, as you can see, various other similar awards through the years. And Mainline Magazine just recently voted us best place to find a new hobby. We offer a program with Timothy School in Berwyn, educating children with autism, and we received an award from them last year. And of course, we're very pleased to have been the recipient of the Radnor Township Beautification Award.
Thank you very much.
Oh, is this mine? Okay. As I mentioned, over 600 children, senior, family, and special needs classes are offered annually. And I explained earlier all the different music programs we have. Our summer art camp program is in its 30th year. The first year I started with the Wayne Arts Center, we had 4 classes for summer art camp. We now have close to 200 classes that we offer throughout the summer. And we have a wonderful core of teachers that stay with us from year to year, as well as several teen interns and over 30 teen volunteers that help us during the summer. This just shows you some of the classes we offer. We have excellent instructors coming from the Philadelphia area, from the finest art schools, and we have a great student population that are very engaged with the courses that we offer. As I mentioned, we have over 20 exhibitions that we offer a year, and believe me, exhibitions, running and installing an exhibition is a major undertaking. Craft Forums is in its 19th year. We're going to be celebrating our 20th year in 2014. And Craft Forums brings in an international group of artists, and also attracts many people to Radnor Township during the term of the show. We're gearing up for a plein air festival now in its 7th year. Plein air has been voted, our festival in Radnor Township has been voted one of the top 10 festivals in our country, which is very exciting. Artists are coming this year from Indiana, Vermont, Maryland, Tennessee, as well as from our local area. Very exciting. We should have a 50% new group of artists this year, and they all love our area, and they're very excited to be here. These are just a listing of some of the exhibitions we've done this year, and as you can see, we've been very busy. I haven't even listed all of the exhibitions we've done, but we have children's exhibitions, member-student exhibitions, of course, Expressions of Radnor, and Jim Cobb had an exhibition called Elsewhere. He did a fantastic job. Jim had a wonderful exhibition, and we are trying to focus not only on a group show for Expressions of Radnor, but also featuring a solo exhibition of a Radnor resident. We've been doing a lot of collaborations with the community. As you can see, we've done some programs with Radnor Township this year, and last year Radnor Conservancy, Chanticleer, Willistown Conservation Trust, organizations in Philadelphia such as Philographica, the Print Center. Last year we partnered with Devon Horse Show to do a plein air event at Devon. Melmark, which is a school program for special needs. And we just keep expanding these programs every year. We're just getting request after request to work with other groups, which we really enjoy. We just are ending an exhibition of which percent of our proceeds will be going to Mainline Animal Rescue. Here are some of the outreach programs that we have listed. Plus Art, which was started in the 1970s, offers free classes for seniors in need. Broaden Your World, which is for traumatic brain injury, Timothy School, Art on the Go, which takes the art to area nursing retirement programs, Boy Scout, Girl Scout badge programs, after school programs, which are growing. This year we partnered with Radnor Middle School, Woodland School, and Agnes Irwin School. And we never turn one person away from the Wayne Arts Center. Anyone who wants to take a class that has a real need, we accommodate. So we want everybody to be a participant and enjoy the arts.
Do you know what the value of the free classes you give?
They're
Portions you waive or something?
anywhere from $200 to $300 a class.
But do you know in the aggregate?
By aggregate, Mr. Higgins, you mean?
Total for the year?
The total for the year, we've given out about 30 scholarships,
So 30.
about $6,000 to $9,000.
Plus, as Nancy mentioned, we have programs for the elderly that are free, and that we go out to the retirement homes, and that we work with brain impaired and so on. And all of this, Mr. Higgins, is at no cost.
This just shows you some of the, the other partners that we've had throughout the year. You want to go?
Okay, to talk about some of the growth issues that we're facing. As Nancy has mentioned, we now have 6,000 students, and with the fact that we're just about topped out on space, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to increase that number more, but it has been growing every year until we've reached at this point. The key thing that the board is doing right now is setting up a study to decide and to understand where an art center that's on the cutting edge is going to be and what it's going to look like 10 years from today. We know if we don't think about 10 years, we're going to be in deep trouble because we're going to be obsolete. The immediate needs that the art center has is not about exactly a $500,000 capital program need, and you can see under immediate needs what that is, from roofs to heating and air conditioning to various ways to reduce our costs, which is very important. Out of the 500, we've raised over 150,000 year to date, so I think we're making a progress on that. And the future needs, let me just back up for a second. We had an outside consultant come in and tell us where we were good and where we were bad. And they were extremely complimentary on every item that they could think of, except what we already know is that we don't have an endowment. And so the board feels that a $3 million around that endowment has to be raised to be able to take care of our depreciation and maintenance costs on that 28,000 square foot facility, because nothing's worse than to build a great place and let it go to heck. And then the other thing is that we need some money as an endowment in case, God forbid, there's a problem on operating. And what we're looking for is to have an endowment that would cover us for 3 months in case of an operating problem. So short term, we need to...
Can I ask you a clarifying question? Because your terminology is a little different than I would have used it. Would are you talking sort of a fund balance or a safety fund, or literally? Oh, sorry. Are you talking about literally a fund balance or an endowment? Because when you said to use up to 3 months for operating expenses, that to me wasn't something that I would think you would use an endowment for.
Thank you, sir. What we would do is a $3 million endowment at roughly 4%. And then so you'd have 100 and, okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. That's what we would pay for. As far as our growth projections for the future, you might find it interesting to call to your attention that the township did fund us $15,000 in fiscal year 1912, which was 1% of our operating budget. And we feel that Radnor Township, if you do a cost-benefit analysis, gets a lot out of the Wayne Arts Center, because we bring, for example, over 20,000 people to our town. Everyone's got to eat. Everyone's got to stay someplace. Everyone's going to buy something. So we think if we look at the Art Center on a strictly cash benefit basis, that it's a good investment for the township. And we at the same time are able to bring increased tourists, to put the Radnor on the map as far as an art center. And I know some of the exciting things that you're looking at for the Willows will play right into this. So we see a lot of opportunities for cooperation. And to end up, the thing that we would really like and would appreciate for you to think of is to increase in the 13-14 operating budget from 15 to 30,000. I know that's difficult, but I do wish that you would give it some thought, because we think it's a good investment. And we think that we've been around for 80 years, and hopefully we're going to be around for a long time, and that the relationship that we have with Bob and the administration and the whole township is excellent. And we deeply appreciate your help, and we look forward to working with you for a long, long time in the future. Thank you very much. Any questions? Threw an awful lot at, I know, but didn't want to take up a lot of time.
Well, you certainly operate an outstanding facility and have great programs.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it.
I just want to, we haven't really talked about numbers at all tonight, so for anybody who's watching at home, you probably don't have it on the top of your head how much we give to these organizations. So I want to kind of put in context how much we fund the organizations we've heard from tonight. The organization that we fund at the highest level is the library, and we, in 2013, have pledged to give them $846,000 and $790. That's the largest. Then come our fire companies. The Radnor Fire Company being the crux of that, which is $655,000. $350,000 of that, though, comes from the state, so that's not all from Radnor taxpayers. Then we have the senior services. We give the Wayne Senior Center $113,000 and change, and we give Surrey Services about $45,000. The Bryn Mawr Fire Company, we give this year $51,000, and then Wayne Arts Center, in comparison to all those numbers, we give $15,000, or this year we're giving $15,000. So I just wanted to give some context of what the numbers we're talking about in terms of all of these organizations. And then I'd also like to add there's another big nonprofit out there that we fund, but not directly, and that is our youth sports. Our youth sports, lacrosse, soccer, Little League, we don't give them check outright, but we maintain all their fields. We provide a lot of service within our parks department, and so that actually adds up to quite a bit. It would be up with some of the ones that we fund at a higher level. So I just want to put out in context, that the Wayne Arts Center is pretty low on that totem pole.
We're aware of that, Madam Chairman.
And as we've expanded, we're a much bigger organization than we have been. We're 5 years ago.
We're
7 years ago.
a $2 million operation from where we were a few years ago. That's a big growth. And my goodness, I'm certainly we are not saying anything about the money that our other colleagues are getting, because it's well-deserved, and they're to be congratulated, and I'm sure they need more. We're just raising the issue of, if you can, think about us when you start sharpening your pencil for the fiscal.
Well, we will put that in the hopper. And, I mean, you provide a great asset to our township. It's really a wonderful thing to have access, easy access for our residents to art and culture like this, that we are all very lucky for your success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And next we are going to hear from the Bryn Mawr Fire Company. So I'd like to invite you to come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dan Cuff, president of the Bryn Mawr Fire Company. Since last we met, there hasn't been a whole lot of changes. A couple of highlights: we did concluded an apparatus replacement agreement with Lower Marion Township in March. Subsequently, we've spec'd and gotten proposals to replace our squad and engine trucks. We probably will put the order in this summer, with the trucks delivery in the first quarter of 2014. Fundraising begins this month. We send out 3 fundraising letters. Generally, we raise about $130,000 through that. And then 3 weeks ago, we were informed by the National Labor Relations Board that our paid men are considering unionizing. And we'll be working through that for the next 2 or 3 months to see where that goes.
Dan, how many guys do you have that are paid?
We have 3 full-time, 2 regular part-time. One of the regular part-time is not eligible to vote because he's considered a supervisor as an assistant chief.
So 4 guys are forming a union?
Yeah. It's actually happening in most of the fire companies in Lower Marion Township, Gladwin being the exception. And they're going to treat each fire company as an individual organization, because we are individual organizations, and negotiate contracts, if this all goes through, negotiate contracts with each company separately. So, you know, we have the 4. I think Ardmore had 7. So it's between 4 and 10 for the companies. So. Any questions?
Any other questions from commissioners?
Curiosity question: if they unionize, do they get access to union benefits? I mean,
I don't know. It
I don't know
came
much
up
about
3
forming a
weeks.
union, but 4 people seems like an awfully low number.
Kevin, I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, they become part of a collective bargaining agreement.
No,
With 4
Right.
people.
no,
No?
they
Right,
no.
with 4 people.
They will
regional or national organization.
Right.
they negotiate a contract individually
For each
with
firehouse.
our company.
Right.
Be able to get benefits, health insurance, life insurance, some discounts for
Firefighters
being part,
Association.
being part of the union.
Firefighters Association.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Be able to get discounted life insurance and other, things.
They may.
Okay.
I mean, at this point, we don't have anything more than sometime before the end of May, they're going to vote whether to join or not, and then we'll start getting the information.
So do you have any big needs coming up in the near
We
term?
don't have any capital improvements planned. I think we're fairly well set with that for the next number of years. Just, at this point, we're replacing apparatus, so.
How about volunteers? How you doing with that, Dan?
Never enough.
No.
So
Getting harder, or?
the amount of training they have to go through now, 80 hours or 88 hours of class work to get firefighter 1, it's a burden. The young guys can do it, but you can't get somebody has a family to volunteer and start that process. Then the older guys retire, so it's a struggle for everybody.
Do you see a time when you're going to have more hired?
Yes, I do, especially during the day. And it's been discussed. I wouldn't call it imminent, but there are grants we can apply for that would fund an additional paid man for 5 years, and then you have to reapply for the grant. So at this point, we're not applying now.
Okay,
We may
thanks.
be at some point. You know, when we got the letter about the unionizing, we put all that aside because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay, any more questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Giving us the update. We really appreciate it. And then, last but not least, we have the Radnor Fire Company.
Okay. I'm John Statz, president of the Radnor Fire Company. Good evening. Thanks for having us here tonight. And with me I have Assistant Chief Doug Felsky and Executive Director Eamon Brazunas. I think you've met with us all before. So we have our presentation. I think you guys can see that, so we'll go through that. So our questions for this evening, based on what you asked us to do. First, the organization, is it stable? Any changes? Any major issues? 2013, how are we doing? And how are we doing so far? So we'll try to address those as we go through this presentation. First of all, one of the most important things that we see is the volunteers within the company, and obviously the history goes back more than 100 years now, that this was a volunteer organization. We're now what's called a combined organization because we have both volunteers and paid staff. However, financially, the importance of the volunteers is still very critical to any fire and EMS organization that relies on the volunteers as probably part of the primary response. And from a fire perspective, we have 67 fire and ambulance volunteers. Those 30 are firefighters, 17 are firefighter EMTs, 19 are straight EMTs, and 1 is a paramedic. We have 20 volunteers that support the company, either as EMS support, auxiliary, or part of the board of directors. And we have 27 paid employees. Of the 27, 9 are full-time. We have 5 full-time firefighter paramedics, 4 full-time firefighter EMTs, 9 part-time paramedics, 8 part-time firefighter EMTs, and 1 full-time administrator. Eamon. One of the biggest issues that we see is obviously how do we improve our volunteers? How do we entice more volunteers to join? How do we retain the volunteers that we have? And we look across the country, it's pretty universal. The need for the volunteers for fire companies is very significant. Some ideas that we've been looking at are obviously examples of how we can maintain and improve the volunteers. Is first a tax relief program, an incentive-based program based on our length of service, and an education tuition credit for undergraduate and graduates. We've included in your packet a PA Senate resolution that was made to the Commonwealth. It's called Senate Resolution 60, and it addresses very specifically the recruitment and retention programs and ideas that the state has put forth. So we wanted to make you aware of that, provide that as backup for another discussion another day. However, right now, the fire company has maintained a stable organization for the last year. Probably the most significant change is we've had one 61-year veteran, Rick Tadeo, who's retired and become what we call an active, retired active service volunteer. 61 years in the fire company is pretty significant. I think we'll struggle to find any more volunteers that can stick around 61 years, but that's an impressive record. Talk next about the call volume. Over the past 4 years, as you can see, it's maintained around 800 calls per year for the fire service, and it goes up and down each year depending on things like weather, number of, obviously, days when it's very dry, we have a lot more field fire calls, other types of calls. So those can vary, but they basically have stayed about the same from year to year. However, when we look at the ambulance call volume, you'll notice here that it's pretty consistently been increasing. We'll go into some of those facts, but this year we've broken the 2,500 barrier, a pretty significant number of calls. Most of you may see the ambulances, that they're pretty busy making calls all times of the day and night. One of the issues we faced this year when we talked about changes is the impact of what we all know as Obamacare. We received notification a few weeks ago that the sequestration order is going to have a direct impact on the payments that we receive from our Medicare and Medicaid patients, and it's an immediate reduction of 2% effective April 1. So it's not only going to affect Medicare, but Railroad Medicare, Medicare Advantage, and a variety of other programs. So those will be, that's an immediate cut that we're going to see in our payments and will affect the bottom line. It may also affect the other insurance because they're all based on the Medicare model. So we're not sure exactly what the impact is yet, but we do know it's going to be a significant impact. One of the other things you'll notice here on this particular chart is what's called a payer mix. And we brought this up before. If you look at the pie chart there, you'll notice the majority of blue is Medicare and Medicaid, 43%, which means that that payment, if it's billed out at $1,000 for commercial insurance, may only be, say, $400 if it's Medicare or Medicaid. So a very significant change in the payment that we receive from those types of patients. What's probably more important about this, when we brought the ALS program to your attention a couple years ago, in 2010, the payment from Medicare was about 23%. Last year it was about 35%. This year it's 43%. So it's a significant change because of the aging population. That's been a common theme here tonight. As we see the population age, more and more are becoming eligible for Medicare, which then reduces the payments that the ambulance sees for that amount of service. So obviously we're going to have to take a closer look at the financial impact of that over the next 9 to 12 months and give you an update as to how exactly that will impact us, because we don't know the full effect yet. As you can see here, total amount received about $933,000, billed about $1.8 million. And you can see the rates there: ALS 432, BLS 364. So those are the Medicare rates that are paid. I want to talk about some improvements to the service. We think these are very significant, probably not something you may all be aware of at the township level. We look very closely and analyze our calls. We look very closely at when the calls happen. We look at the type of calls. And one of the things we found this year was that we certainly had more calls and we had more downtime from our ambulances. They're only 3 years old. However, every time one of those ambulances is down, we have to call in an ambulance from Berwyn or an ambulance from another location to cover that. That's a longer dispatch, a longer response time. Not particularly good for the patient, especially if we're talking people that have serious injuries like a heart attack, a stroke. So we want them to have better response times. So to offset that, we purchased a third ambulance. You'll see here it's called the van. And as we see here, it's already responded to 219 calls since it was placed in service in 2012. What it gives us the ability to do is not only respond with our 2 current ambulances, but we're now finding that there's sometimes we're called for 3 ambulances at the same time within the response district of Radnor. So what this allows us to do is put this third ambulance in service. In addition, it also acts as a backup. When the other ambulances are down, we can use this ambulance, and it just played a big part in keeping the ambulances going for the last month. We had 1 ambulance down for 32 days straight.
So as a matter of course, do you have enough staff to send out 3 ambulances at all times?
When that happens, we actually have enough, and we'll get into that. We have enough staff for two full ambulances all the time, and then usually by the time the third one's called, we have enough guys that are notified that we have the first call, the second call, so they're on their way there for the third call.
I see.
One of the other important things that we added this year was to add what's called MICUs, where we have where it's an ALS and a BLS, or a paramedic and a firefighter EMT on that ambulance. What we found was that on the weekends, we were having a high call volume on weekends here. So what we did was we increased our what's called MICUs, our combined staffing, to 2 full-time MICUs 7 days a week. So that allows us basically to have those 2 ambulances on those 12-hour peak periods in service for those 12 hours that it's most important for the township. Okay, so that was a significant change from last year, where we only had on the weekends 1 ambulance fully staffed. Now we have 2 ambulances fully staffed on the weekends. Okay. Some of the projects we've been looking into to help better understand our real costs. We've been working on what's called a cost per call formula. It's a tool developed specifically to address what the real cost of responding to a fire call or an ambulance call is. We've been working with Bill White and Bob Zinkowski to allocate the costs from the fire company operation across all the responding vehicles, so we can go back down to a particular type of call and say, okay, to run this particular combination of, let's say, the Quint, which is our ladder truck, and a pumper, we can give you the exact cost for those types of calls. And where that'll be helpful, we'd like to come back and talk to you at another date about the number of false alarms that both Bryn Mawr, Radnor, and Broomall are responding to in Radnor, and the cost of those calls, so that we can basically go back and see if we can work on some ordinances and some changes to reduce that number, which will be beneficial not only for the fire companies, also the township, and believe it or not, the alarm companies themselves.
Security alarms, you mean? Not people calling up and making a false alarm?
Yeah, false alarms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they could be caused by a variety of reasons, and, so we have, typically we respond to those every day anyway, but we have some things that we'd like to propose to try to reduce those number of false alarms. Okay. So as you see here, we really want to talk more about that. How do we help to reduce the risk to the community by responding to less false alarms? It's a key problem that all the fire companies, Bryn Mawr, ourselves, and Broomall are responding to, and it uses a tremendous amount of resources. This year, 37% of our calls were basically false alarms. Huge number. Some important things that we want to tell you about from a capital project list. First of all, we have a existing engine 15.3 that was a 1996 E1 that's needed to be replaced. We estimate that's about $500,000. We've been in the process of speccing a new truck that'll meet the current requirements for the fire company. Right now, the township has provided a $200,000 capital fund every year for the replacement of the trucks. That hasn't actually kept up with the actual cost of the trucks. However, for right now, that's what we project for that particular truck, and we'll get back to you what the actual costs are and see how close we are to covering our costs. Also have another probably more significant issue. Our ambulances now are both over 3 years old. As we just mentioned, one of them was down for 32 days about a month ago. The current ambulances are no longer being produced.
Why would it be down for a month?
Warranty, engine work.
So it was covered under warranty, and the folks warranting it wouldn't authorize the work, or wouldn't do the work, or wouldn't send somebody to, I mean,
Took them 32 days to figure it out.
took them 32 days to figure out the problem.
Right. Now, if you were a plumber, would you be down for 32 days without your van? I don't think so. I'd like to ask Ford that question. Not sure whether there's a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit from various people that have this particular type of chassis, but it might be worthwhile for us to partner up with the township solicitor to look at that, because that's a significant amount of cost that we've incurred to have that ambulance out of service for over a month. At any rate, that particular type of ambulance that we've had for about 20 years is no longer being made by Ford, so we've had to move to a different chassis. The different chassis that we have is a little bit higher than the current chassis, which means it won't fit in the bay doors of the firehouse that we currently have. I think we have about 3/4 of an inch right now if you're directly in the right line, a little too close for comfort. So right now we're in the process of having some architects and engineers look at opening up the ambulance bay and doing a little redesign so we can fit the new ambulances in there. Ambulance replacement, as I mentioned, there are 2 of them that are due up for replacement this year. They have about 50,000 miles on them, which is typically we replace the ambulances at about 3 years old, trying to maintain, first of all, less warranty work. As you look at the ambulances, the older they get, the more they're out of service. So we typically have replaced them on a 3-year schedule, so these are due up for replacement. Cost is about $175,000 per ambulance.
How much do you get for the old ones?
How much do we get?
How much do you get when, I mean, I'm sure you sell the old ones.
You sell the old ones, they typically go for anywhere from about $30,000 to $40,000. Okay. And one of the important other projects that we, obviously you all know about, is our communications tower that we had proposed to replace this year. That tower has now been, through an engineering review, was found to be deficient. It's over 40 years old. It is time to replace it, and it's right on the corner of the lot next to the gym. It will need to be replaced soon. We've been working with Bob Zinkowski on that to replace what is there with basically of like kind of tower, and that will be one project we'll be working on this year and coming back to you with some new drawings and information on that type of tower that we'll be looking at to replace this year. Okay. Any questions?
I think you were pretty thorough.
Anyone
Appreciate
have
it.
any questions?
Okay.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in and giving us this update. And thank you
Okay.
for all you do for our community.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any questions or comments in general from any of the commissioners on what we've heard tonight? No? Anybody in the public want to comment? No? Okay, I think we're just about done.
Move we adjourn?
Would anybody like to move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Second? All right. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned.